My client would like to have one more reading before he dies. Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie. I'm here with my dear friend Carlin, and we are having a conversation today. My client reached out from his deathbed and really feels like he has a need for one more reading, that there's something important that he needs to hear before he crosses, and also some advice and help for his family in being able to make peace with what is coming in the next few months. So when I first got the message this morning, I was really overwhelmed in the moment, of course, because he's been a very dear client of mine for,
Yeah.
probably as long as what I've been doing this work. And
Yeah.
we, as you get really
Oh,
fall in love with your clients. They're important
you
people. They become
do.
important people in your life.
Yeah.
And so, I was really at first very overwhelmed, that the shock of that as well, even for myself. I think it's, naive sometimes for people to maybe believe that we as mediums or psychics or anything, that we don't have the emotional response on things simply because we know better, right? We know what death is all about, and we're going to be talking to them on the other side. But I thought what was really beautiful about this was that he just feels like there's something that was still undone for him. There's something that he needs to complete or needs to know prior to his crossing. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit from my perspective, and then I'm going to have Carlin come in and share a little bit in
Yeah.
terms of what she would offer to someone during
Yeah.
this time. And then we're going to also bring in some solutions at the end of the conversation to really help
Love it.
you or to help your loved ones in, if this has become something, so that you don't need to experience this on your deathbed, that maybe there's things that can be taken care of well in advance before this happens. And so just so excited and pleased to be able to have a chance to talk to you about this. It's a big one, you
Me
guys.
too.
It's big, it's big, it's big.
Oh, big.
And because of the rawness of what this is, it's probably going to get very emotional for me too. So just a heads up, I've been wafting from in and out of this
Oh,
all
I
day
bet.
because of my personal connection to him, of course.
Of
So,
course.
so first and foremost, when we look at this, we all feel that, there are things in our life that perhaps we could have done better, things that maybe
Yeah.
we feel regret over. We might even have, even aspirations and goals and dreams that are left being unfulfilled. And of course, knowing him as well as I do, I know that that's a big
Yeah.
part of things for him. He just feels like he's lost his chance to finish what he's here to finish. And so that's really, really, of course, tough. And I guess we work through that, of course, all of us, I would imagine, at the time of death for ourselves. But I think what's really important here is to, in counseling and looking at what could possibly be there for someone to receive in this last reading.
Yeah.
What is it that they would need to know? And immediately, even as he was asking me the question, I was already getting downloads and information coming in from the other side,
Of
which was
course.
really about really helping him to understand that his soul has actually completed everything, that some of the greater soul contracts that he's had in place have actually been fulfilled. And it's important
Yeah.
for him to know that even though he might feel there's still some things undone, that there still is, there's a celebration or the completion of many, many things that he set out to do in this lifetime. And what's more important in it, where they really showed me, was that the soul contract, just because we have a physical death in life, our soul
Yeah.
contracts with each other still continue. So things that he feels that he has yet that are yet undone or unresolved in relationships, etc., that he's still going to be able to fulfill a lot of that even from the other side. So I mean,
Of
that's
course.
an important part of the messaging here. But what also comes into play is, for people on to know, like what he said to me, is that he's really been able to make peace with where things are for him. He's really
Oh,
settled and at peace with the fact that this is going to happen. He only has, a few months to live, and he knows the end is inevitable. He's also not afraid of death because he also is a medium, and so he
mm,
understands the transition to the other side. And so for
yep.
him, it's just, for him more than anything, it's the reassurance that, in this yearning to fulfill something in life and all of these goals and aspirations, it's really in almost in handing it over or handing it in a completed state, because to understand
Yeah.
that we actually never get it done, that this lifetime is just a small measurement of time from a soul perspective, and
Yeah.
that he will continue to do this work and continue within those contracts, and that fulfillment of purpose isn't necessarily something that needs to come just specifically from this particular life experience. And
Yeah.
so, right, it's like it continues. The soul is constantly evolving. It's the purpose is constantly unfolding, and it's happening within this lifetime and a multitude of lifetimes that are yet to
Yeah.
come. It's been a part of the lifetimes that were previous as well. And so
Hmm.
this fulfillment, it's like, it's not, I think we sometimes have beliefs that this calling of purpose or fulfillment of purpose, we need to get it done in this lifetime. But
Hmm.
this is about an eternal progression, an eternal purpose. And so being
Yeah.
able to help him just to, recognize and find peace within that was a, big part of our conversation here this morning as
Yeah.
well. So, just letting him settle into that, and there was relief for him in the sense of, like, it's like he doesn't have to feel like he let God down, that he
Mm.
let his higher purpose, that he somehow failed, or that he was
Mm.
disappointing his family by not being able to fulfill things. That was also really big for him, and he's really worried about his family and how, if they're going to be okay through all of this, and how he can help them. I mean, here he is on his deathbed, and he's still he's made
Mm.
peace with his transition, and he's still looking at how can he help his family to come to settle into this, to be able to move through his death with a little bit more ease. And so, we talked about the importance of, and it's not, it happens on deathbeds all the time, but
Yeah.
being able to really let the shit go, like have the conversations that need to be had, and we just talked about the things that he feels he needs to say, and not based on
Mm.
what he believes they need to hear,
Yeah.
because even in death, it's his experience.
Well,
His death
especially
is
in
about
death.
him. His death is about him,
Especially in
right?
death. I mean, everything else can involve other people, but you're crossing over to the other side. That is literally all about you. All
Yes.
about you,
All about
right?
you. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So his desire to have the reading, the feeling like there was something he needed to hear. That was a big part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
He needed to hear that, even though this physical life was going to be done for him, that his life continued, and he's still going to
Yeah.
fulfill these greater things, because he was writing a book. He had, he was developing courses and classes, and
Mm.
there was work that was sitting there that basically he
Mm.
felt fell away to the wayside. And so, here again, where we understand that we get to pull that into the next lifetime with us, that whatever we're doing here, again, it's unfinished for all of us. And that's what I said, it's unfinished for all of us.
Yeah. So, oh, sending stuff flying out of my hands. Wow.
Apparently
I have
she
a
needs to talk. A mic drop.
I have a lot to say. My goodness.
Apparently.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you okay if I tag in now? Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to start with a couple things that people don't necessarily understand for clairvoyants and mediums and psychics. And when you are in this for the right reasons, you get and the right reason is you're driven, you're sort of feel this natural need requirement to make a difference and to help people. And so when you're in this for the right reasons and you're not in this for ego, which is a total different topic that we'll talk about at some point,
Yeah.
when you're in this for the right reasons, you fall madly in love with your clients, right? I mean, I think my husband refers to it as I have affairs every day, right? Because I'm madly in love with them.
Yes.
Like I am
Yes.
madly in love with them. I am a part of their life. I become a part of their equation. And so, I mean, the first thing I want to
Yeah.
say is talk about a blessing that for you, that he feels that way about you, that he wants you to help him with the last stages. I mean, that is,
Yeah.
to me, that is as amazing, emotional, but as amazing as
Yeah.
all of the times they want to talk to us about their living. Right.
Yeah.
I just want people to grasp that because it's
Yeah.
such a big deal. I've lost clients. And sometimes I've lost them without warning. And sometimes, of course, I've lost
Yes.
them with warning, right? The ones I've had for a very long time. And it is devastating. It is
Yeah.
truly devastating. Even when you know. even when you
Right.
know and understand what's on the other side. But I got to tell you, our entire lives that we are born in this body, in this form, from the moment we are born, we're constantly getting pushed through society that we've got to get things done, that you can't miss out on opportunities, that this matters more than anything else, that there is nothing else outside of this moment in this time. And I always get so frustrated with that because it's the biggest crock of crap that exists in all planes. It is the biggest crock that exists, and it really is a form to it's this mentality that creates this sense of failure and lack of achievement and settling for less than who you're supposed to be. And of course, all these fears and worries and insecurities like he's going through right now because he's got all these things that were on his list. And
Yes.
we don't understand that life, number one, is not about a destination. It is, in fact, about the journey. It is the journey. The destination's freaking irrelevant. It means nothing. The
Yeah.
whole reason you do any of these things is so that you can learn through the journey. So, one of the things that I'm picking up so strong, and I know this is your client, but one of the things that I'm picking up so strong is that, the reason that he has to cross over now before all of these things have manifested it into his reality is because he's not ready. He's not confident and strong enough in his abilities to make sure that that message gets to go through the right way. But I can guarantee you he will be the next round. And I think that's so important for people to understand. And you could live for 100 years, and in the universe, because the universe has no time, so to sort of give it a time, if we would, because time doesn't exist in the universe had a time that might be 3 months of your soul's existence if you're lucky, right? It could
Right.
even be a month,
Right.
right? Like if you're lucky. And so many people don't understand. We cross over at different times because of different things in our contracts. Some things just need to be reviewed and refreshed, and that's why we pass away young, because there's just sort of that last 1-2 things that needs to be done before we get to start a new curriculum. Sometimes it's a big list, sometimes it's a middle list. Like, you just don't
Right.
you discover when you cross over, when you go
Right.
back into that little booth and talk about everything that you were supposed to do in this life, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing that people need to understand. There's no such thing as failure. You can't
Right.
fail at
Right.
life. I find that so, because especially, I mean, this with your clients too, right? They always talk to me about how they're failing, and I'm like, you can't actually fail life. I mean,
Right.
you can fail a test. You can fail your driver's license. There's no such thing as failing life, right? Like,
Yeah. It's not
you're
exactly. It's just not possible. I mean,
like,
we come with a blueprint that is already set us up to succeed at life.
we get to come back so
Yes.
many times
Yes.
that if we don't fulfill that entire blueprint in this one go round, we get to we get the opportunity to fill it in the next and the one after. And like, again, this is 3 months of your existence if you're lucky. How
Right.
how can you fail? Like, it just
Right.
doesn't. I always find that so confusing when people talk about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, because they don't have the awareness and understanding to
Yeah,
that, right? They're seeing it from a logical state of mind, or from
a
the egoic
society state of
perspective,
mind.
or
Yeah,
society state of mind, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And society's wrong. I mean, here's the thing. It's
Yeah.
being said so that you follow. You're born to lead, and you spend the rest of your existence on this
Following.
planet being taught to follow.
Right,
Every single
exactly.
one of us are born to lead, and you spend the rest of your existence from the moment you start breathing being taught to follow instead. It's a
Yeah.
constant contradiction. It's a constant contradiction. So there's a couple things that really got me. So one of them, you might laugh at this. When I was first in this industry over 3 decades ago.
I know, but me saying it,
Like,
that I've only been
do you
over a
register?
decade. Like, I mean, I've been 15 years, and I'm like, whoa, I'm like a baby. I'm only half the age that you are in this
Like,
industry.
do you actually right? Thank you. That makes me feel so much younger. Yes,
Yeah,
that was lovely.
I thought that would make you feel really
Yeah,
good.
I'd like to point out you're a grandma too, just for the record. Uh, but just think about it this way: between the two of us, we can celebrate our 50th psychic anniversary together.
Exactly. We can celebrate our 50th together.
So, but when I was first got into this, when people were burning steaks on our front lawns, and I was classed as a fortune teller because I
Yeah.
really am that old. But when I first got into this, I remember I older people, elderly at the time. Of course, I'm young, right?
Yes. You still
Fairness, I was
are.
looking at
Just
people my
just so you know, you
age,
really
going
still are.
elderly. But anyway, but what I mean by elderly is like 80s. Okay, they'd come into a reading. They'd walk into the door, and I remember I used to cringe because I'm like, oh, the hell are you supposed to tell old people?
Right? What could they possibly need at this point in time? I know,
Now,
right?
of course, I love it because I understand and have for many years. That was in
Yeah.
the beginning. That was when I was
Yeah.
still, a virgin. So I was really young. But anyway, in the beginning, I didn't understand what they were looking for, and now I do. So now I get so
Yeah.
excited when they come to me at that stage because I can
Yes.
really sort of help them transition. So can you with a better awareness taking with them of everything that
Yeah.
they've experienced, right? So I think that's really great. I got to tell you, I love that he's at peace because
Mhm.
that means that he's good with this.
Yeah.
I will, you know, no, I'll wait till the end to do that one.
Okay.
I'll wait till the end to give the tips because that's what we had
Yeah.
said we were going to do. I'll wait till the end because
Yeah.
I got some tips that could be really great for everybody in this situation,
Yeah.
especially because he's also been given the gift of time to say goodbye, which,
Yes.
I think is so beautiful. I think the time to
Yes.
say goodbye is just so precious.
It's a
And
privilege. It's
it
a real
is.
privilege to be able to have that opportunity, whether you are someone on your deathbed or whether you are
Yeah.
someone that is beside has a loved one who is you're aware that
Yeah.
they're crossing. It's such a privilege to be given the opportunity to talk about things, to say goodbye, to thank them for the life that you've been able to share. And I mean, that was a part of our conversation this morning too, thanking for all of the years of not only, of course, is he my client, but because you fall in love, he's soul family. He's a very dear
Of
friend of
course.
mine, and just he's thanking me for the blessing of all the years of how I've helped and supported him in his life, and I'm exchanging and telling him what a gift he's been in mine, what a blessing he's been to me, because it's people like him that really help and support a
Yeah.
sense of purpose for me in doing this work and for even
Oh
being who
yeah.
I am, right? And to be so entrusted. I mean, what a privilege it is not only to be able to say goodbye to someone, but a
Yeah.
privilege even at this point in his crossing to be a part of it, because we get to talk about those things, even some of the
Yeah.
other guidance that was received over the years, helping him to make
Yeah.
sense of things, and really kind of looking at this beautiful exchange when we talk about the soul contract. As much as he
Yeah.
has had a contract with his family and the people in his life, we too also held a contract and still have a
A thousand
contract.
percent.
So I actually said to him, I said, you have to understand, honey, I'm like, you're going to be needing to help me on the other side. Like, if you think
Oh
that
yeah.
your work is done, I'm relying on you on the other side to step in and to help and support, and let me be a part of helping you to fulfill something. Let it be fulfilled through me. Like, I made that, we
Yeah.
had that kind. He was just like, oh my gosh, Bonnie. Like he had never thought of that either. Even though, it's funny, even though, I mean, he's caught up in the physical aspect of his death.
Yeah.
And so even to talk about, what he's going to be able to do from the other side, right? It almost opened up this realm of possibility for him
Like
that actually
excitement.
got him excited
Yeah.
about it,
Oh,
right?
I love that. I love that. I love
Yes.
that. Okay, so let's take a couple minutes here and talk
Mm-hmm.
about some ideas
Mm-hmm.
for our listeners for when they, for and this can be twofold. Oh, sorry, can't talk for you. Mine.
But you probably can, because I don't know if you guys know this or not. She's like, I always joke with her. I'm like, she must be psychic because she always seems to know what's going on inside of me.
Yeah, once in a while. So I don't mean to talk for anyone else, but my
Yeah.
ideas are you can use them whether you're the one crossing over and you've got time,
Mhm.
or they've crossed over and you didn't get time, or you did get time to say goodbye. Right. So one of the ones that I am super huge on is letters
Yes.
or little videos. I mean, for me,
Yes.
it's, when you're writing to the person that's crossed over, I love letters because they can get put in the casket. They can get sent with them. Just letters of everything that that person meant to me is something that I do often. But I got to tell you, if at the end of my life I'm given the grace, I make a point. I'm going to back up here a little bit. I make a point. Don't know a lot of people don't know this, but I do Christmas letters to my children every year and have since they were babies, right? They
Yeah.
still have them all. And then, once the kids started giving grandchildren, I started giving them to the grandchildren instead of the kids,
Yeah.
because now they're all adults. And it would just be a review of the year, right? And I started this because I would do the review of people's lives while I'm saying goodbye to them, the things that they impacted me with. I would write
Yes.
in that letter. So that's what I do at Christmas time, right, for my family, so that there's never a doubt. I never want there to be a doubt in anyone's mind connected to me of whether I loved them or not and how I
Yes.
felt about them. I never want them to sit back when I'm gone and question whether that's a possibility. So
Yeah.
I know that if I had time to cross over, that is the one thing I would do, is I would do little videos or write little
Yes.
letters to each of them, telling them how they made my life better and stronger, right?
Mm.
And I would thank them. I think the other thing that I would do is that I would suggest is making a point of being so thankful that I now get to go on vacation, because that's really what it is, right? This
Yeah.
is our schoolyard, and then we get to go home and go on summer holidays, right? I'd be
Yeah.
so thankful for my summer holidays, right?
Yes.
And that's how I would be referring to everything with everybody. I'd make such a point of anytime they spoke to me, I'm like, I'm not leaving. Just, I'm going on holidays. I'll be back. And while I'm on holidays, I have direct access to communicate with you. So I would certainly set them up with the understanding that I'm going to be watching over them, that they don't have to question it. They don't have to wonder. I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now, that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. And I
Yeah.
won't stop until I can make a difference in your life. So you really do want me on the other side,
Yes.
right? That's the approach I would take. So your turn.
Oh my gosh. So when we look at it from this very, very rawness of this, very
Mhm.
humanness of it, I mentioned a little bit earlier yesterday. This is the opportunity to be able to say the things you haven't had a chance to say. So I really love, of course, the letters are such an important piece of this.
Mhm.
What I've always encouraged, and I encouraged him, and I also encourage those who have a loved one who is crossing, is decide on a sign. What sign it
Mm.
is that they're planning on
I
sending
love
you,
that.
right? So, for him as an example, I said, what sign could you offer? And he says, I really want them to remember me in the sunshine. And I said, okay. So because his favorite place in the world was Hawaii and the beach and the
Yeah.
sun, and that was his
Yeah.
thing. And I want them to remember me in the sunshine. And I said, okay. So you need to tell them that every time that they see the sun shine, that's you shining down on them, that you are there day in every single day. And so and again, it can be, you can look at coins and feathers and
Mhm. Mhm.
dragonflies, and you pick a sign, in nature. It can be even a
Yeah.
certain song that you hear, that they're going to hear on the
Yeah.
radio, that's going to be their song, to find something. And again, you can do this even if your loved one is dying. You can ask
Mhm.
them to come specifically in a certain sign or in certain ways to reassure their presence with you. And so
Yeah.
then that way, it helps it. And what is so beautiful about it is, even though it could be judged or seen as this conversation that's happening, at that soul level, at that spirit level,
Yeah.
it's remembered, and those songs are played on the radio, and those signs show up, whether it be, to
Yeah.
the living from the dead, or where the
Yeah.
living is recognizing that particular sign. And so ask for a sign, ask for a specific
Yeah.
sign to be remembered by.
I'm just throwing this out here.
Mhm.
The one thing I'd say, because, of course, I'm sure you go through this too, but a lot of people, because I'm so big on science and stuff and the law of attraction and manifestation,
Yeah.
everybody's like, well, how do I know? Right. And everybody questions if it's too obvious or it's too easy, and that can't be it. So as soon as you said, anytime they see the sun, they'll know that I'm thinking about you, which I think is awesome. And it's
Yeah.
true. But most
Yeah.
of us mentally have the idea in our head of, I mean, every time you go outside, you're going to see the sunlight, right? So it's good,
Exactly,
right?
right?
So they're just not,
Right.
people
But
just don't.
that's
So
and particularly with him, that's what he wants, because he wants them to know he's there all the time, right?
thousand
So
percent.
for
What
him,
I'd
that's it.
throw into
But
that,
yes,
yeah. But what I'd throw in there is my favorite place in Hawaii. And I'd look at them
yeah,
and go, if you see the name of my favorite place in Hawaii, or you see Hawaii somewhere, whether it be by sign then know that I am specifically focusing on you
on you.
in that exact moment. I mean, I'm
Yes.
thinking about you all the time. So the sun shining, I'm thinking about you. But
Yes.
if you see that particular name of my favorite city, then no question, hands down, I am specifically focusing on you. at this
Yeah.
moment, right?
Perfect. Yeah. Again, get
And
specific,
not even
getting
for
really,
him, that's for other
yeah,
people, right?
exactly. And I mean, that's getting really specific in terms of what
Yeah,
that sign is. And I think that's where, we can get very specific with the universe. We can get very
yeah.
specific in these signs and symbols, and
Oh,
make it
we
it
can.
can make it the most impossible thing. I mean, you and I both have stories of the most impossible situations that are never going to happen. And this universe works its magic. And all of a sudden it's like, are you kidding me? There's my sign.
I just want to share this really quickly, because you guys will discover over this process that one of my very favorite people in my life was my grandfather, on my mom's side. Spent summers together. You and I have talked about this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he follows me everywhere I go as a raven. You and I have talked about this too, and the reason that I knew, without a doubt, that that was my grandpa was because in the summertime, when my grandpa and I would spend time at the lake, he always would tell me that we wanted to pay attention to the messages coming through. And so whenever we were fishing or we were out on the water or we were swimming, or he'd always point out the raven, and he'd always look at me. So ravens are crows, and he'd look at me and be like, "That's how we know we're being watched over, honey." So as soon as he died and the first raven came to me, I knew beyond a shadow of a
Yes.
doubt that it was my grandpa, beyond a
Yes.
shadow of a doubt. So it's never up for question for me. Anytime I see a raven, anytime I see a blackbird, to be honest with you,
Yes.
because like I know the
Yeah.
difference between a raven, a crow. I know the
No,
difference between an owl. I could tell you the owl isn't a raven or a crow, but that's about where it ends. So anytime I see a blackbird, I immediately start talking to my grandma. Right.
nice.
And on
Yes.
top of that, anytime I need my grandfather's help and I'm like, "Grandpa, I need you to do this for me," I see a blackbird immediately. Right. So, those specific signs really do make such a difference. I mean, I live in
Yeah.
this industry and I'd still question myself if I didn't have a specific sign. I'd still question whether it was real or
Absolutely.
not. And I live in this field.
And you exactly, and it's
So,
it's our world, right? It's, the
yeah,
world we play in. Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
One of the other things that that was, gave him advice and helped to do as well, you mentioned it a little bit of it earlier, was really about the gratitude of things, and really taking the opportunity to let every single one of the people that is there visiting him and with him, the very things that he's grateful for. Just like we had that conversation this morning where he shared with
yeah.
me, and and just giving the chance for that, even though it can be so emotional and it can be hard to speak through it and it can be hard. It's such a necessary piece of it,
It
because
is.
gratitude, the vibration of gratitude, that is one of the highest energies that will support and bring a lot more ease into any experience. So finding gratitude in the most challenging of times, whether
Yeah,
it's even our day-to-day life, but especially on the deathbed, is such a
yeah.
poignant and powerful experience in what is a shift of ease. And for everyone, it really is where compassion lies. It's where the
It is.
grace comes from in those moments. And when you can begin to express gratitude, like, I mean, we'll talk about this probably in another episode. I'm not a huge believer in this whole forgiveness thing. Like, I've got a whole different concept on forgiveness. And so this
It's so
isn't
funny because I was just about to suggest something about forgiveness. Out of my head. You
no,
crazy.
it's like
Okay. Okay.
no, I'm
Yep.
saying, I mean, like, don't, it's not, I just think the approach that people take on it is perhaps the wrong, I'm
No,
not saying don't forgive, but it's just
no,
my approach on it.
that wasn't it. It was just literally in my head. I'm like, "Ooh, I got another one I want to throw at them. It's all about forgiveness so that they feel." And then you're like, "This
Right.
one, no. This one, no. On a totally different take on
For me,
forgiveness."
it's all about self-forgiveness, forgive yourself, and then everything,
100%.
right? But anyway, that's, like I
That
said.
was just
But
funny.
yes,
That was
I
just
still agree. I still agree with that too. But just to be able to express gratitude
yeah,
instead of it, because what it does is
100%.
it doesn't bring up the resentments, the things that have been harbored, what has been angered or
Yeah,
difficult or challenging in the
yeah,
relationship. It brings
100%.
in just love in that moment. And that's really
For
what's
sure.
needed. Love is needed on the deathbed.
It is. I think sort of the last thing the last sort of few things I want to say, and then whatever you want to say. I think it's so important to understand that, when you are actually dying, even before you've been diagnosed, if it's an illness or whatever, you need to understand. It's like a pregnant woman always knows unconsciously when she's getting ready to give birth. She starts
Yeah.
nesting. She starts cleaning. She
Yes.
starts. Okay, it is no different on your deathbed. It is
Yeah.
no. You start doing things. You start evaluating things differently. You start approaching things differently. You start communicating with people differently. You start feeling a need to get some to get your cards in order, if that makes any
Yes.
sense. And that's really how you know it's coming, right? I talk to people all the time about when you're scared, I know you're not going anywhere. When you're not scared, now I could be a little worried, right?
Yeah.
But this is a part of it too. So a lot of us don't think that we have time, and I think the problem is, and that's it's going to be great for another topic that we're probably going to record today.
Yeah.
But it's you got to understand you are aware that this is happening. And then just really quickly, the last thing I want to suggest, and maybe this is just me, but I am a huge advocate that I don't thrive when I'm living in pain. When my heart hurts, I don't thrive in life. And
Mhm.
so I am really, really big on releasing trauma and letting trauma
Yeah.
go. I'm going to teach it. I coach it. I do all those things, and
Mhm.
and letting the anger and hurt go when other people have hurt me. So I know if it was me, and I'm not saying that anyone else needs to do this, but I believe and have done. I have actually probably 20 or 30 letters already written, sitting in envelopes. But I would personally also write to the people that have hurt me in the past and the
Yeah.
relationships that went sour. And the reason that I would is because, everybody knows that my dad is gone and that I wasn't in his life for a period of time. And the difference that it would make for me if there would have been a little note somewhere, or he would have made a point of calling me just so that I
Yeah.
knew that, do you know what I mean? Not because it
Yeah.
was his fault, not because it was his fault.
Right. But
It
just to be
was
able
my
to,
fault.
yes.
But I don't want anyone to be damaged or feel guilty or feel like they screwed up
Yeah.
with me when my time's done. I don't want that to be anybody's memory, my friends or my foes. I don't
Mhm.
want that to be anybody's memory, because I healed from it before I ever crossed over. I healed from it
Yeah.
within days of experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't ever want anyone to go through that, whether I love them or I hate them.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this, right? I sent my ex-husband who abused me roses and a thank you card. You've said thank you to your abusers. Like
Yes.
we do these things naturally because our living and our dying is affected by holding on to it. So it's
Yes.
not just for them, it's for me too. I don't want my
Mhm.
death affected. I don't want my life affected, right? But I don't want their life affected. And I don't want their death affected either, because these are just experiences. We think everything's so personal. It's not personal, it's just
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So,
It's that
yeah.
it's that 3 months of the soul's journey,
Yeah.
right? It's the 3 months of it, right? And so,
Yeah. Like,
yeah,
take
I
it
think
easy. Just
absolutely. Oh my
relax,
gosh.
people. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. One
Go
of the
ahead.
other things I think that, I encouraged him to do as well, and I just want to, leave it with this as well. I mean, there's the whole energy side of things we can get into
Yeah.
in another conversation. But one of the other important pieces of this was for him to decide what he needed. What does he need
Yeah.
at his time of crossing? Is there specific music that he would like to listen to? Is there a playlist that, because so people feel very helpless when their loved ones are
Yeah.
dying. So if there was a specific playlist that one of
Oh,
his
for
nieces
sure.
or nephews could make for him that he could have playing while he was crossing, are there certain
Yeah.
prayers that, he
Yeah.
happened to be a retired Catholic priest. So are there any prayers that he required or needed to be said during his, like, what does he need in order to create a spiritual release for him from the life? So
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Because he's still here. So I'd love it if you'd be willing to ask him. And if not, it's okay. But
Yeah.
that would be an amazing conversation for us to have once he's crossed over.
I'll ask
So
for
I would
permission.
love to know, I'd love permission for us
Mhm.
to honor him,
Mhm.
to share his story.
Mhm.
Because talk about an incredible, being somebody who grew up Catholic and struggled so
Right?
much being
I know,
clairvoyant,
me
and
too.
he was
Yes.
a Catholic priest and became a
And
medium.
he's a
That
medium.
is that is a
Mhm.
story so worth
I know.
sharing. I would
I
I would
know.
I would love
I
that. So
know.
please ask
I
him
know. I
permission.
will definitely ask it.
Oh,
I'm tell you, in my career, I always joke because I collect Catholics and
yeah,
I collect past priests and ministers. I have a whole array of individuals who have been at the pulpit and who were teaching under the structure and the doctrine of the church, and then who knew they could no longer do it because what they were teaching wasn't aligned with what they knew and understand and what they were receiving through their connection to the non-physical world. So that's a whole, yes, I will definitely
so
ask if we can share his story. Yes.
just a last statement, Bonnie, did you know that I originally was a minister?
I didn't know that about you. That's so hilarious. And I don't know if you know this or not. I was actually going to go in and become a nun. That was one of the things I was going to do. I'm an ordained minister, metaphysical ordained minister, because I believe in ministry.
I
But
was a venerable archdeacon.
get out, right?
Oh my goodness, total different topic. Okay, everybody.
Totally another topic for another day.
Lampage. So yes, please ask him permission. I hope that
Yes.
everybody had really enjoyed this episode. And Bonnie and I will talk to you again all really, really soon. So see you
Yeah.
next time.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.